The moment I found out that top-tier alpha Oscar was engaged, I was staring blankly at the pregnancy test on the sink. 2 lines. But I knew that a lowly Omega like me wasn't worthy of giving Oscar a child. I was just his medicine, a comfort tool he could call on whenever he needed. I knew Oscar wouldn't say these things out loud, his upbringing wouldn't allow it. But it didn't matter. That's exactly how he thought deep down. I was heartbroken, tears soaking the pregnancy test. Knock, knock. There were 2 knocks on the door, then a brief silence. Even without hearing a word, I knew it was the butler. He only ever came to me for one reason: Oscar's mating season had started early, and he needed me. Wait a moment. I threw the unfinished suppressant injection into the trash and opened the door. Sure enough, it was the butler, dressed in a suit, standing at the doorway with the same cold expression he had when I first met him. Go to Master's room. You know what to do. I nodded silently, then walked from the dim basement up to Oscar's room on the 2nd floor. The bodyguard standing nearby opened the door for me and then stepped back. Oscar's room was even darker than the hallway. Thick curtains blocked out all the light. Only a small lamp by the bedside cast a warm yellow glow. The air was thick with his pheromones, almost instantly filling my nose and lungs. My legs suddenly felt weak, I couldn't stand. Squinting, I steadied myself by leaning against a cabinet. Oscar's pheromones were special. They smelled like a coming storm. Every time I caught the scent, it was like standing in the eye of a hurricane, dark clouds looming overhead, wild winds howling through the halls. Devouring, destroying. Cold and gloomy. Always oppressive and aggressive, just like Oscar himself. Unfortunately, during his mating season, his pheromones ran wild and took over, becoming the master of Oscar instead. They tortured him, making him curl up on the bed in pain. He wore a bite guard, his gaze fierce and predatory like a wild beast ready to pounce. His expensive designer shirt was soaked with sweat, clinging tightly to his body and outlining his perfect waist and abdomen muscles. I swallowed hard without realizing it. Even though I wore expensive suppressant patches, the back of my neck started to heat up faintly. My glands were pounding. The pheromones screamed wildly inside me, as if they might break through the patch and clash with the violent alpha scent in the air, fighting to the death. I knew why I was here, so I ripped off the suppressant patch. Oscar suddenly lifted his head, his usually icy black eyes burning bright red. He gripped the bedsheet tightly, frowning deeply as if his remaining reason was battling his desire. After a moment, he grabbed a decoration from the nightstand and smashed it on the floor, grit his teeth, and shouted at me. Get out! Get out of here! The first time I calmed him down, he reacted even more violently than this. So I wasn't scared at all. I skillfully undid the buttons on my clothes, stepping closer to him step by step. The intense pheromones wrapped around me quickly, like a wind caressing every inch of my skin. A white light flashed before my eyes as Oscar pinned me to the floor, his pheromones overpowered his reason again. He tore my clothes roughly, biting the back of my neck through the bite guard. The cold touch sent a shiver through my body. My own pheromones burst out uncontrollably, smelling earthy and lowly, just like me. The 2 scents wildly tangled in the air. Oscar let out a nearly painful moan as he pinned me beneath him, demanding more and more. Pleasure coursed through me like electricity. I bit my lip, fingers digging deep into the carpet, struggling hard not to make a sound. My tears only drove Oscar more insane. The glands the bite guard couldn't reach were stroked by his fingertips. A tearing pain spread from my lower abdomen, like a red-hot blade scraping me quickly. I hurt so much my vision went dark. Turns out not being marked and entering the reproductive tract was this painful. I had no choice but to beg him. Please, take it out. I'll die. But irrational Oscar didn't listen. Controlled by pheromones, he pushed my head into the carpet. The world went dark, I didn't know how long we went on. But I knew, he didn't love me. Every intimate touch was just the instinct of an alpha in mating season, a natural chemical pull between alpha and omega pheromones. This attraction was not Oscar's choice. It had nothing to do with me personally. 2. I woke up in a basement room. For 3 years, every time I calmed him down, a sober Oscar would throw me out afterward. Without exception. Oscar hated me, even though I'd been with him for 3 years. He was extremely disciplined and despised anything beyond his control, especially uncontrollable pheromones. Because of his pheromone disorder, his sensitivity phases flared up frequently, making him lose control and become irritable, turning from a man into a beast driven by lust. He was clearly the top alpha in the capital, the future heir, someone who should be above it all like a cloud in the sky. But I was just an Omega struggling to survive, so lowly I was practically dust beneath his feet, like dirt underground. We shouldn't have had anything to do with each other. The mistake was that due to a business dispute, Oscar was kidnapped as a child and injected with various drugs. Some of these drugs stayed dormant inside him, escaping detection until he turned 20, when everything exploded. The inhibitors no longer worked, and no one could calm him because he rejected all pheromones. Until I was found. The report said our pheromones matched 100%. At that time, I had just sold blood at a black market clinic. My mother was in kidney failure. I'd borrowed every penny I could, working multiple part-time jobs a day. But it still wasn't enough, far from it. The hospital warned me, if the fees weren't paid by next week, they would stop dialysis. I was desperate, and in a public restroom, I saw an ad for blood selling at a black market clinic. Besides blood, they even sold kidneys there. I thought, if it weren't for his family reaching out, I might really have ended up there. I remember stepping out of the black market clinic into pouring rain. I didn't have an umbrella, rushing to my next job, running as hard as I could. The rain mixed with my tears tasted salty and bitter as it trickled into my mouth. After changing into my work uniform, I looked at my pale reflection in the glass, wet hair clinging to my gaunt face, like a ridiculous drowned ghost. That was when the butler came. He stood at the door and handed me a contract, saying he was willing to cover all my mother's medical expenses and pay me 100,000 yuan a month. In exchange, I had to become Oscar's calming tool, on call whenever needed for 3 years. I had no reason to refuse. The first time Oscar saw me, he frowned. I knew this young master had never encountered someone like me before, someone from the slums. I reeked of poverty. Even the inhibitor patch on my neck was the cheapest, lowest quality kind, leaving my glands swollen and irritated. I was as lowly as an ant, and he looked down on me. When he was sane, he never looked me in the eye. Unfortunately, his pheromones only recognized me. I was the only remedy for his sensitivity phase. The first time I calmed him, he almost marked me for life. After that, every time his sensitivity phase came, he put on a bite guard early. He was afraid of being permanently linked to me. Oscar hated his illness. He hated that he looked down on me but had no choice but to choose me. He hated that, although we didn't love each other, our pheromones matched perfectly. He hated every moment we came together. In short, he hated me. Lost in thought, the door slid open a crack and a furry head peeked in. Blake came in carrying a tray. "Brother Bruno, I brought you your meal." He was the only servant who ever smiled at me. I tried to sit up but failed. My whole body ached as if a truck had run over me, my bones felt like they might fall apart, and any movement caused sharp, tearing pain. Blake sat by my bed, looking at the marks all over me, and suddenly began wiping tears away. "Brother Bruno, it hurts me to see you like this." Others showed cold faces when they looked at me, expressionless, but I could see the contempt in their eyes. Only Blake felt sorry for me. I had told myself over and over that I was a bought commodity, and commodities have no dignity. So, I shouldn't mind. But now, suddenly being treated like a person felt bittersweet inside. I shook my head and said sincerely, "Don't feel sorry for me. I'm already very lucky." 3. I heard Oscar's white moonlight had returned to the country. There was new progress on the experimental drugs treating his pheromone disorder and rejection syndrome. He became busier, and I rarely saw him at the villa. I had a low fever for a while, my pheromones got a little out of control, and I slept poorly at night. When I visited my mother at the hospital, she looked at me and suddenly said, You've lost weight recently, you look so worn out. Her concern made me feel unfairly treated, but I couldn't cry, she would worry and overthink. I forced back the tears, looked down while peeling an apple to hide my emotions, and came up with a casual excuse. I've been busy preparing for thesis defense and haven't been resting well. Mother stroked my head and reminded me, no matter how busy you are, make sure to rest well and don't stress yourself too much. I nodded softly. She was silent for a long moment, then choked up and said, I'm sorry for making you suffer all these years because of me. I set the apple and knife aside and hugged her. I haven't suffered, Mom. The sponsor is kind and treats me well. Mother sobbed a little, then calmed down and asked if I had a boyfriend recently. I'm a year older than Oscar, 24 this year. I started school late and took a year off when Mother's condition worsened. When I was about to drop out, I met Oscar and was able to catch my breath and continue studying. That's why I'm only graduating at this age. I should be dating, but I don't have the right. So I dodged the question and told her some funny stories about school. She listened and eventually fell asleep with a smile. Mother doesn't know that I'm someone's medicine. I lied to her, saying a philanthropist had noticed my talent and was moved by my filial devotion, willing to support me. I only had to work for free for him for a few years after graduation. Mother believed me. I'll keep these dirty dealings from her forever and never let her know. 4. On graduation day, Oscar showed up. He sat in the last row of the auditorium. His impeccably tailored Italian suit made him stand out among casually dressed parents. Immediately, groups of female students gathered, whispering excitedly, their faces flushed with excitement and shyness. But no one dared approach because of his cold and unapproachable aura. Oscar was always like this, wherever he was, he easily became the center of attention. My heart twisted painfully. In 3 years, this was the first time he'd come to me on his own. My fingers clenched unconsciously, my heart pounded so fast it felt like it would leap out of my throat. When I gave the speech as an outstanding graduate, my voice trembled. My eyes kept darting toward him uncontrollably. Oscar seemed to be looking at me too. From those icy, frost-like eyes, I felt a hint of warmth. I hurriedly finished my speech and pushed through the crowd. My classmates were surprised by my loss of composure, but I didn't care. Today was special. Maybe he finally. Oscar. A sweet, syrupy voice came from behind. Oscar looked up, his gaze passing over my shoulder and landing somewhere behind me, revealing a gentle smile I'd never seen before. I felt like I was nailed to the spot, my smile frozen. The person behind me brushed past as if we were old friends and linked arms with Oscar, saying happily, I didn't expect you to come. That was Nolan, the newly hired teacher who had returned from abroad. Oscar's white moonlight. A subtle sinking feeling settled in my lower abdomen, and my graduation cap suddenly felt heavy. They were all reminders. How ridiculous it was to think otherwise. Luckily, I didn't greet him or rush to hug him. I composed myself, took a few steps back, and disappeared into the cheering crowd. 5. Yes, I liked Oscar. I wasn't even sure when or why it happened. As an employer, he wasn't bad. The pay was high, the work was easy, the benefits were great, he only got a bit crazy during his ruts. But that wasn't his fault. Most importantly, if it weren't for him, my mother probably wouldn't be alive. Back then, she didn't want to burden me, first secretly reducing her medication, then even planning to end her life. Oscar's appearance, no matter the reason, and his money, really did save both of us. I was grateful to him. He was my benefactor. I shouldn't have dared hope for his love, that would have been a betrayal of gratitude. But sometimes, I still couldn't help wondering, gratitude and love aren't the same, so why did I fall for him? After all, as an alpha, he wasn't particularly kind to me. In his eyes, I was just a tool, one he didn't want but had to use. Not a person. Not someone equal. Loving him was like a prisoner falling for their chains, a slave worshipping their master. Absurd. Pathetic. I couldn't explain it. The only thing I could blame it on was the tragic, primal pull between an alpha and omega. Just then, Oscar came back, holding a small cake. I snapped out of it and respectfully took his jacket, hanging it up. "Did you accept a job yet?" he asked as he handed me the cake. I was surprised but accepted it and replied honestly, "I've received a few offers, but haven't decided yet." Oscar nodded and, after a pause, said, "You can also join the company. We'll give you the best terms." I stared at the strawberry-flavored cake in my hands. Strawberry, Nolan's scent. Sweet and pleasant. I used to like it. Now it felt cloying. Probably because Oscar liked him. Oscar didn't understand. I didn't want to depend on him. I wanted to stand on my own. I opened my mouth to politely decline, but the sugary cream triggered a wave of nausea. I retched a few times. A dull ache spread through my lower abdomen, and I remembered the recent low-grade fever and erratic pheromones. A bad feeling started to rise. But I dismissed it immediately. It couldn't be. Even if there was penetration, without a mark, the odds of conceiving were extremely low. Oscar watched me closely, his eyes probing. "Sorry, I'm fine," I tried to compose myself. "Must have eaten something bad." Oscar didn't question it. "Let Dr. Nico take a look at you." "No need. Just a minor issue." He didn't push. He took a call and left. I only caught bits of his words: accelerate the clinical trial, launch by the end of the month. He was talking about the new medication to treat his condition. He couldn't wait to be done with me. I was a stain on his life. Good. The 3-year contract was ending. His condition would be cured. He wouldn't have to suffer being close to me anymore. And I'd finally be free. Everyone would be happy. It was good. But the moment I saw the double lines on the pregnancy test, my heart twisted painfully. I looked at myself in the mirror, hand instinctively moving to my lower abdomen. There was a life there, unwanted, unexpected. A child that belonged to both Oscar and me. I didn't know how to feel: pain, confusion, and a sliver of shameful, humiliating joy. I still had hope. But Nolan's message crushed it completely. 6. Before Oscar came to campus, I had run into Nolan once. I had just left the library when I saw him in a tailored suit, slicked back hair, leaning against a wall smoking. Elegant. Carefree. Confident. I clutched my books tighter and couldn't help thinking, no wonder he was Oscar's first love. He was dazzling. I tried to hurry past, but Nolan stopped me. He flicked the ash from his cigarette, glancing at me with those beautiful eyes, then said lazily, "Bruno, I know who you are." Gray smoke swirled from his lips, some of it hitting my face. I suppressed the nausea and asked calmly, "Can I help you with something?" "Not really. Just curious what the legendary 100% pheromone match looks like." He looked me up and down, disappointment plain on his face. Clicking his tongue like he felt sorry for Oscar. That condescending attitude rubbed me the wrong way. I couldn't help but snap, "And? Oscar would never fall for someone like you," Nolan said as he flicked the cigarette into the trash. "This outfit was a waste." He shook his head and walked off. To him, I wasn't even worth considering as a rival. So afterward, he never bothered me again. Until graduation. When Oscar stopped me as I tried to slip away. "Bruno, let's take a picture together." Nolan didn't look pleased, but with Oscar there, he smiled and agreed, "Yeah, let's." He wedged himself between us, linking arms with Oscar and placing a hand on my shoulder. His fingers pressed against the injection site on my deltoid, hard. In that moment, I understood how he must have felt when he saw me. And I too felt sorry for Oscar. His pure love didn't seem so pure after all. Oscar's closeness must have made Nolan feel threatened, because somehow, he got my number. Then came the digital invitation. Oscar and Nolan in embossed gold letters, blinding to the eye. In the photo, the two of them wore custom-made outfits worth millions, smiling arm in arm at the camera. A perfect match, Alpha and Omega, flawless on the outside. So they were getting engaged. Why hadn't Oscar mentioned it? The thought itself was laughable. I was just his medicine. Why would he tell me anything? Then Nolan's messages started flooding in. Bruno, don't think that just because you've been with Oscar a few times, you mean anything. You're just a release outlet. Oscar told me, if not for his condition, he'd never touch a bottom-tier Omega like you. Disgusts him to even look at you. My chest clenched in pain. I knew Oscar would never say that, he was too well-mannered. But did it matter? It was what he thought, wasn't it? Tears blurred the two lines on the pregnancy test as Nolan's messages kept coming. Bruno, remember your place. Stop reaching for what doesn't belong to you. It's pathetic. And since you've been around for 3 years, I'll be nice, come to our engagement party. Just don't wear that bargain bin outfit again. If you're not embarrassed, I am. I didn't reply. I silently dropped the test into the trash. I knew better. Even if they weren't getting engaged. This child was something I should never have. Something I didn't deserve to bring into the world. 7. Oscar had to leave for something. He left a gift on the table, a luxury watch, a Patek Philippe. Underneath it was a photo of us from graduation day, with a handwritten note on the back, Bruno, happy graduation. After that photo was taken, Nolan had rushed over to check how it turned out. Oscar suddenly put his hand on my shoulder and said to the photographer, "Let's take another one." His pheromones swept over me faintly like a coming storm. I froze. Oscar had never touched me voluntarily in public before. In the photo, I was wearing my academic robe, staring blankly at his profile, while he faced the camera with a slight smile. Tears fell silently on the photo. I wiped them away gently. Why, Oscar? Why? Why act like you care? You're not in love with me. You're about to get engaged. Why are you suddenly being so kind? Logic told me to throw the photo away and let go of the feelings I shouldn't have. But standing over the trash can, I just couldn't. It was the only picture of us in 3 years. So I found a nice frame, carefully placed the photo inside, and slept holding it. Pretending Oscar was next to me. But lies can't outrun reality. The next day, Nolan sent me a clip from an interview. The reporter asked Oscar what his biggest goal was right now. Oscar paused before answering, to bring the pheromone disorder treatment to market as soon as possible. The reporter followed up, is it for yourself, or to help others suffering from pheromone issues? Oscar shook his head. No. It's for freedom. Freedom. I think I understood what he meant. Pheromones were a kind of shackle. They trapped him, forced him to be with me. But I was just as trapped. The only difference was that Oscar's body was bound. My heart was, too. Nolan texted me. The drug trials were a success. Bruno, congrats, you'll be out of the picture soon. And he was right. I bumped into Oscar on the stairs later that day. The butler, standing respectfully behind him, asked, "Sir, your contract is about to expire. Shall we renew it?" Oscar stayed silent for a moment, then shook his head. No. Let him go. 8. Before the drug was released, Oscar went through one more heat cycle. I was pregnant and in no condition to handle his intensity. But this was still my job. I had no right to refuse. I told myself, maybe this time, it'll just end naturally. Maybe it's fate. But Oscar was different that night. This time, it wasn't like any of our past encounters. There was no frenzy, no suffocating pressure. His movements were careful, even tender. His cool scent wrapped around me, soothing, like spring water washing over every inch of my skin. I felt like I was floating, my heart, my body, everything turned soft. For the first time, I wasn't just enduring. It felt like he actually cared. If it weren't for his flushed, strained expression, I'd have thought this wasn't even a real heat cycle. At some point, the bite suppressor came off. But Oscar didn't sink his teeth into my gland like the first time. Instead, he kissed my forehead. I hadn't cried during the pain, but now, I couldn't stop the tears. Because I knew, this would be the last time. So I got brave. I cupped his face and kissed the corner of his lips. Oscar froze, then gripped the back of my head, deepening the kiss. He had always worn a suppressor. This was our first kiss. It wasn't smooth, we bumped teeth, tasted blood. But neither of us stopped. Our kiss was desperate, greedy. We kissed again and again. Until Oscar finally passed out, exhausted. I stared at his sleeping face, fingers tracing his features. I wanted to remember this moment. Of all his heat episodes, this would be the one I'd hold close. I hugged him tight and inhaled his scent, my heart aching. It smelled so good. But I wouldn't get to experience it again. I pulled myself up, leaned in, and bit his gland gently. Tears streamed down my face. In his sleep, Oscar frowned slightly and murmured, "Will Bruno come back?" I held back my sobs. "Yes, Oscar. Bruno will come back. But I have to go." I kissed his cheek softly and whispered in his ear. "Oscar, goodbye." I got dressed. Gave him one last look. Then quietly closed the door behind me. It was so soft. As if I had never been there at all. 9. The day I left, the sun was warm, the breeze gentle. No one came to see me off. Blake was busy, but said goodbye in advance. He cried so hard his eyes were red and avoided looking at me, staring only at my belly. "Bruno G, if I miss you, can I still find you?" I felt my nose sting. I forced a smile. "Of course." His eyes lit up. "Can I hug you?" I was a little stunned. "Oh, of course." He hugged me tightly, patted my back, then let go. "Don't forget me, Bruno G." I looked him in the eyes. "I won't." He was the only person in that house who showed me kindness. He smiled brightly and skipped away. No one saw me off, but someone did intercept me on the way. A van pulled up, and a group of men in black surrounded me. The area was remote. No one was around. I ran into the woods, but they kept catching up. Like they knew where I'd go. A hit to the back of the head, and everything went dark. When I woke up, I was tied up on an old boat. Nolan was there too, terrified. "I have money. I'll pay anything. Just don't kill me." One of the masked men tapped his cheek with a knife. "Money's boring. Let's play a game. A classic TV drama move, choose one to live." They gagged us and called Oscar. Told him he had to pick, only one of us would survive. "You can have anything you want, just don't hurt him." Oscar sounded frantic. The man laughed. "And who do you mean by him?" Oscar didn't answer directly, just kept pleading. "Whatever your grudge is, take it out on me. Don't drag innocent people into this." The masked man got tired. "I'll count to 3. Don't pick, and you both die. 3. 2. I heard Oscar stand. Then, a name. "Nolan." I pick Nolan. I always knew the answer. Nolan, his childhood sweetheart, came from the same background. How could I compare? But even knowing it, it still hurt. The call ended. They untied me and threw me overboard. "You're useless now. Let's go." "Go where?" I couldn't even swim. Salt water flooded my nose, my ears. I tried to cry out, but my mouth wouldn't open. I kicked, thrashed, but my limbs grew heavier. The sun above me grew faint. I was sinking. So this was it, my end, at sea. Maybe it was for the best. Right before I lost consciousness, I thought I saw someone swimming toward me. 10. I had a high fever. In a haze, I felt someone wiping my body to cool me down, then feeding me water and soft food. He seemed to be crying constantly, tears fell on my neck but he quickly wiped them away with a cloth. He kept talking to me, praying to the gods. You have to get better. But prayers didn't help. My fever dropped during the day but flared up again at night, over and over. My consciousness was even more confused. Then one day, a familiar scent entered my nose. I suddenly felt refreshed. I held the source of the scent close, greedily inhaling it. At dusk, I slowly woke up and stared blankly at Oscar's coat in my arms. Why? Why am I such a fool? He clearly abandoned me like trash, yet I still depend so much on his scent. I really hate AO's scent, this unreasonable, destructive attraction. Blake came in holding a glass of water and froze. Brother Bruno, why are you crying? Crying? I wiped my face messily before looking up at him. Blake, thank you for saving me. We took shifts with Galen and planned to bring you here. We saw you being carried onto the car halfway through, so we followed. Luckily, you're okay. Blake sat down, looking me over, then continued. Sorry, lots of people outside were looking for you. I didn't dare take you to the hospital. You're pregnant, you can't take medicine recklessly. If he hadn't said it, I almost forgot, I'm still pregnant. After everything, the baby was still safe inside me. What a tough kid. I closed my eyes and sighed, I won't keep this child. 11. Blake said people were looking for me outside, so I didn't dare go to a big hospital where they needed ID and insurance. Disguised, I went with Blake to a small clinic on the black market. The doctor ordered a bunch of tests. When I saw the fetus's heartbeat on the ultrasound, my heart ached painfully. That was my flesh and blood, part of me. I had thought about giving birth and raising him alone. But without Alpha sent to calm me during pregnancy, I was miserable, and he wouldn't grow well. Even if he was born healthy and strong, what could I give him? No home, no stable job, my mother's kidney disease could relapse any time. The future held no peace, only endless hardships. Why bring him into this world just to suffer with me? In the end, I still couldn't abort. The doctor said my body was too weak for termination and needed rest. Oscar's scent on the coat faded more and more. I grew restless, couldn't sleep at night, and my hair fell out in clumps. I visibly wasted away. Blake watched me, tears uncontrollable, and secretly took Oscar's coats from home one by one. He folded the clothes into a nest, and I lay in the middle, finally able to sleep soundly. I dreamed of my mother. She said she missed me. Waking up, I realized I hadn't seen her for a long time. Her hospital room was surrounded by many guards. I asked a nurse and learned Oscar had been searching for my body in the sea for a long time but found nothing. He didn't believe I was dead. He was sure I would come back to see my mother, so he waited patiently. I was stunned. Oscar was looking for me. Why? Because his words caused my death, and he felt guilty. Luckily, he didn't tell my mother I had died, but lied that I was sent abroad. No wonder she didn't suspect anything after I didn't visit for so many days. I didn't want to get tangled with Oscar anymore. I glanced at my mother from afar and left. Unfortunately, Oscar noticed me. 12. Oscar followed me all the way home. He frowned as he looked at my shabby rental. You've been living here all this time? Frowning. I hate it when he frowns. If you don't like it, leave. I'm not asking you to stay. I said coldly, none of your business. When I worked for him, I was always soft-spoken and never argued, so my attitude now surprised him. He opened his mouth, looking uncomfortable. Just then, Blake came in with fish, happily shouting, "Brother Bruno, we're making fish stew tonight." He stopped abruptly upon seeing Oscar. He looked at me, then at Oscar, and said, "You two talk first." Then he turned and left with the fish. "Are you two together now?" I replied with the same words, "None of your business." Oscar took a deep breath, his expression suddenly changed. "Why has your scent changed? Has he marked you for life?" Because of pregnancy and hormonal changes, my scent had shifted from earthy to fresh grass. But he didn't need to know that. I repeated, none of your business. How could it be none of my business? Oscar's eyes reddened, and he blurted, if I'd known you'd choose such a lowly person, I wouldn't have let you go. I couldn't help but remind him, but Oscar, don't forget, I'm a lowly person too. Oscar realized he'd said something wrong and looked regretful. I sneered, two lowly people together, how fitting. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. Oscar tried to reach for my hand, but I avoided him. What do you mean? It's none of your business. I shook my head indifferently. Oscar, the contract's over. We have nothing to do with each other. Please don't bother me again. Oscar's hand dropped weakly. A tear slid down his cheek. He gave a bitter smile. All right. He took a few steps, stopped, and left me with a lonely back, saying, I'm such a terrible person. I was never meant to have you, I know that. Bruno, I wish you happiness. 13. Oscar kept his word. He stopped looking for me and removed the guards outside my mother's hospital room. But when I went to see my mother, I saw someone who shouldn't have been there, Nolan. He stood beside my mother's bed, leaning over, talking to her. Mother looked pale and frail, her thin fingers clenched tightly around the sheet. She was unaware even when the 4 on her hand was refilled. I won't be treated. I won't be treated anymore. Suddenly, Mother ripped off the 4 and blood splattered on the white sheets, glaringly bright. I deserve to die. I should have died 3 years ago. Why didn't I kill myself then? I wanted to rush forward to hold her, but Mother grabbed a fruit knife nearby and pressed it to her neck. I froze, hands trembling with panic. Mom, don't do this. We can talk through this. Nolan sneered and poured fuel on the fire. Bruno, your mother doesn't know her treatment money came from your selling yourself. I grabbed his collar and slapped him twice. Say another word, and I won't mind letting you die first. He was a bully with a soft heart. After 2 slaps, he said nothing else and slunk away. Then I comforted Mother. Mom, he's a bad man. He can't stand to see us well, so he's spreading lies. Mom, do you trust him or your son? Mom, look at me. Your son would never lie to you. Come on, give me the knife, okay? Mother shook her head. He's right. I'm a burden to you. If I die, you'll be free. Blood dripped down the sharp blade, and my heart thumped wildly. I felt on the edge of breaking down. Fine, then die. I heard myself sneer coldly. If you die, I'll jump from here and die with you. Mother wept bitterly. I took the chance, hugged her tightly, snatched the knife, and threw it far away. 14. My mother didn't attempt suicide again, but she still didn't trust me. She insisted on transferring to another hospital and moving to a different city with me. Before we moved, I tied up Nolan. The fact that he had been gossiping about my mother wasn't going to go unpunished so easily. When he saw me, his expression turned calm. Bruno, I should be the one to hate you. You have no right to hate me. I twirled the dagger in my hand and patiently asked, why no right? I was betrothed since childhood. Before you appeared, he had no objections. But after you came along, he saw me once and immediately broke the engagement. He was so furious, as if I had taken something from him, but I didn't understand. He was the one who changed his mind. Why don't you hate him instead of me? Nolan hesitated for a moment before retorting, he changed his mind because of you. I laughed. No, even without me, there would be someone else. He broke the engagement simply because he didn't love you. Nolan's voice sharpened. Your twisted logic about love doesn't matter in families like ours. He changed his mind because he loved you. Loved me? I laughed as if I'd heard a joke, stopping after a while. He loved me. Then why did he choose you to be kidnapped and let me die? Nolan looked at me like I was crazy. The only ones who kidnap people around him are his enemies. Tell me, the one he chose, do you think they would survive unharmed? At Nolan's gesture, I loosened his clothes to reveal many horrific scars. He used me as a sacrifice to protect you. These scars are from then. And you still say Oscar doesn't love you? I was silent for a long time before regaining my voice. That's just your speculation, your one-sided story. After all, because of Oscar's choice, I almost died at sea. Nolan laughed. Looks like you know nothing about Oscar's past. I was stunned. What do you mean? Nolan flipped his hair. Since I feel like confessing today, I'll tell you. Oscar once had an older brother. When they were children, both were kidnapped, but the kidnappers would only let one live. Their parents chose the brother, who was tortured to death, and Oscar was sent back. That was the kidnappers' plan, to drive a wedge between them. To send the loved one to die, let the less loved live, leaving one full of regret and the other full of hatred, breaking their bond. 15. I won't go looking for Oscar, even though I now know the truth. Of course, I also didn't intend to let Nolan off. My mother had a 17mm wound on her neck, so I slashed Nolan 17 times. The wounds weren't deep, but I poured salt in them. I only wanted him to feel pain, not to die. But Nolan still died. Then someone covered my mouth and tied me up. The kidnappers called Oscar, demanding he come alone to an abandoned factory in the southern part of town within half an hour. Otherwise, they would kill me. Oscar arrived quickly. The kidnappers pressed a gun to my head and tossed a sharp chopstick to Oscar. Pierce your gland, or I shoot. The gland is an alpha's lifeline. Damaging it means going from elite to useless. Oscar was a businessman and future heir. He wouldn't be that stupid. But Oscar took the chopstick and only asked, if I do this, you'll release him? When they confirmed, Oscar didn't hesitate and decisively stabbed the chopstick into his gland. The gland is one of the most sensitive areas of an alpha's nerves. I can't even imagine the pain. I saw a lot of blood flowing down his neck. Oscar's forehead was covered with cold sweat, but he didn't even frown. My mouth was gagged, so I could only make muffled sounds, tears streaming from heartbreak. Oscar glanced at me and said, "Don't cry," then turned to the kidnappers. "Blake, you've achieved your goal. Release Bruno. Or should I call you Devin?" The kidnappers were stunned and tore off their hood. Sure enough, it was Blake. He switched back to his original voice. "How did you know it was me?" "Because Bruno chose you. I naturally want to know your background." Oscar's gaze landed on his hand. "Besides, Gavin once threatened me with this gun." Blake laughed crazily twice. "You remember him, Oscar? Then do you remember, you killed my brother?" From their confrontation, I pieced together the story. Gavin, who had mental illness, was obsessed with Oscar and harassed him multiple times, all rejected by Oscar. Later, Gavin climbed a rooftop threatening to kill himself to force Oscar to accept him. This suicidal act happened many times. At first, Oscar tried to reason with him, but this time he lost patience. Oscar hung up on him. Gavin jumped from the rooftop, dying in front of Blake. Blake initially approached me and showed kindness out of sympathy. Sympathy for my fate as a tool, sympathy for me loving a ruthless man like his brother. Later, when he found out I was pregnant, he wanted Oscar to unknowingly kill his own child. Then he planned to reveal the truth to him. But then he changed his mind. How much attachment can an unborn child have? He wanted to take care of me until the baby was born, then use my child to threaten Oscar. But he didn't expect Oscar to truly love me. So an even more cruel plan quietly formed. He wanted to move me, take Oscar's place, make Oscar's lover belong to him, make Oscar's child be his. When things couldn't be reversed, he'd tell Oscar everything and watch him suffer. But Nolan told me the truth. I know Oscar loves me. Blake hated Nolan for ruining his plan. So Blake killed Nolan and changed the plan. He wanted to turn Oscar into a useless man without glands, to make him experience the pain of losing the person he loved most. So whether Oscar destroyed his gland or not, Blake never intended to let me live. Blake pressed the gun to my forehead. In Oscar's wide-eyed gaze, he pulled the trigger. Bang! Blood splattered everywhere. Blake fell to the ground, dead with eyes open. From the building opposite came a cheer. Target eliminated, mission complete. Oscar had arranged everything before arriving. His self-inflicted gland injury was to lower Blake's guard and buy time. 16. Oscar was badly injured, his face pale, but he dared not faint. Before being taken to the operating room, he held my hand and pleaded. "Bruno, don't leave, please." Afraid I'd refuse, he took a step back. "Don't leave before I wake up, okay?" Seeing me nod, he finally lay down in peace. Every second waiting outside the operating room stretched endlessly. After an unknown time, the light above the operating room finally went off. I hurried over. The doctor shook his head at me. I felt dizzy and could barely stand. A nurse helped me so I wouldn't fall. The doctor looked apologetic. "Sorry, my mouth was faster than my brain, he's fine." I wanted to rush inside to see Oscar, but around the corner, I saw my mother in hospital clothes. "Mom, don't get too upset." He and I stepped forward but didn't know how to explain, so I weakly said, "I'll leave." My mother stared into my eyes and asked, "Do you like him?" I didn't want to lie, "Yes, but..." Mom interrupted, "Mom won't hold you back." I panicked, "Mom, don't say that. I'll do whatever you say, really, please don't think about dying." "Mom doesn't mean that." She glanced guiltily at me, then said seriously, "I heard about him hurting his gland to save you. I know he likes you too. Mom just doesn't want to hold you back. Mom won't stop you from chasing happiness." Tears fell, and I hugged her. "Mom, thank you." Mom hugged me back and patted my back. "Silly child, I should be the one thanking you." 17. When Oscar woke up, I had fallen asleep by his bedside. He reached out and hooked my little finger with his index finger, quietly watching me. The moment I opened my eyes, I was met with his clear, autumn-like gaze. He smiled and said, "You're awake." I paused a moment before asking, "So, the last sensitive period you said you'd come back, were you talking about me?" Oscar nodded. I felt a bit hurt. "Oscar, if you like me, why did you try to push me away?" Oscar looked even more hurt than I did. "I didn't push you away. I just wanted to give you freedom." The injured Oscar talked to me at length. He said he didn't like the sensitive periods, didn't want to be harsh with me, but he couldn't control his pheromones. Each time they ended, he felt terrible. He hated himself for being animalistic, for disrespecting me. He feared I'd hate him or despise him, and because of the unequal social status, I would have to tolerate him. So when he was clear-headed, he avoided me. He couldn't face me or see the disgust in my eyes. His goal had always been to speed up the development of a medicine for pheromone disorder. He wanted to be a normal person, not an abusive alpha. Then, end our contract and put me on equal footing, giving me freedom. As the Count of Monte Cristo says, "If you want something, you must let it go free. If it returns, it's yours. If not, you never truly had it." Oscar hoped I would come back to him. But as someone in a lower position, I dared not hope for his love. Thankfully, after all the twists, we ended up together. "Oscar, you seem like a different person," I muttered. "If only you'd told me all this sooner." "I'm sorry, Bruno. I have a lot to work on." Oscar looked at me with guilt. I was born into an emotionally cold family, never felt love, and didn't know how to express it. The psychologist said I have emotional disorders. "Bruno, I'm changing little by little." The doctor said love has to be spoken and seen. I've been learning. Give me more time, okay? Oscar straightforwardly said he liked me and couldn't live without me. His words softened my heart. Since he was so honest, I couldn't hold back either, so I confessed. "I'm pregnant." Oscar was shocked for 3 seconds, then promised, "If you keep the baby, I'll raise it as my own." I nearly spat blood in frustration, grinding my teeth. "Oscar, I've only ever been with you." Oscar reacted slowly with an "ah." "Forget it. Maybe his brain was still fuzzy from the gland injury. I told him plainly, the child is yours. Oscar went, again. The pheromone changes are because of pregnancy, not because someone else marked me. I glared at him. If you say, again, I'm ignoring you. Oscar was halfway through another, before quickly shutting up and hugging me tight. Bruno, my wife, I'm just shocked that in one day I have both a wife and a child. Woo woo, I'm the happiest alpha in the world. Who's this little crybaby? Give me back my noble and aloof Oscar. 18. Because of the serious injury, Oscar's gland was tightly wrapped in bandages and couldn't release pheromones for now. He thought the gland was ruined, and I mischievously didn't tell him the truth. The usually confident Oscar became very insecure. Wife, I'm a useless guy without pheromones now. Will you still like me? Wife, if you're in heat, I can't comfort you anymore. Will you still want me? Wife, I'll get the lab to make the best inhibitor. Can you please not abandon me? He kept getting more ridiculous. Wife, if it's unbearable and you need an alpha, can I be your main man? I was speechless and couldn't help teasing him. Oscar, do you regret destroying your gland now? No regrets. My pheromones have only given you bad experiences. I don't care about them, Oscar said without hesitation. I just worry I'll become a burden to you like this. Idiot, I cupped his face, there's no bad experience. I love your pheromones. Oscar got even more flustered. Then what do we do? After thinking a bit, he answered himself, don't worry. I'm getting the lab to develop an artificial gland overnight. Me. I seriously suspect Oscar was quiet before because he was just hiding how clueless he was. My silly young master, your gland is fine. While hospitalized, Oscar talked a lot and bragged to the doctors about how good I was to him. I was utterly embarrassed. Then the doctor tried to one-up him by having his girlfriend bring a homemade lunchbox the next day. Oscar was super jealous. I, Bruno's alpha, could not lose. I immediately cooked 4 dishes and a soup. Though not pretty, it was delicious. Oscar frowned. I almost smashed a big rock on my chest, glaring at him. I hate it when you frown. Oscar quickly apologized, sorry, won't frown next time. I sat down, thinking it over, but still couldn't let it go, so I punched him. I worked so hard and you complain. Oscar grabbed my hand and blew on the small blister the hot oil caused, not complaining, just worried. Turns out the frown was worry, not dislike. My heart softened again. 19. Rory is very restless inside me. I think it's because Oscar didn't mark me. Oh, forgot to say, Rory is the name Oscar gave the baby. The child carries my surname. Honestly, I kind of like this surname, though Oscar doesn't care much. One day he even said, wife, how about I take your surname too? Anyway, once Oscar got out of the hospital, I dragged him straight to bed. Oscar blushed, wife, isn't that inappropriate? You're still pregnant. I didn't hold back and punched him. What are you thinking? I didn't say we'd do anything, just wanted you to bite my gland, mark me. Oscar sighed, oh. Oscar's brain works in strange ways. He always thinks his pheromones are a chain trapping me. After I told him I love his pheromones, he got jealous of himself. He thought I loved only his pheromones, not him. He bit my gland with his canine teeth and injected pheromones. Once they took root in my blood, the marking was complete. Oscar quickly withdrew his pheromones and pressed me into his arms. His kisses were light like a dragonfly's touch, then deepened slowly as he guided me, breathe. He kissed gently and tenderly. Suddenly I remembered the last sensitive period before our contract ended, realizing belatedly. Oscar, you already took the experimental drug then, right? Oscar admitted frankly. That time, all the touches and kisses weren't pheromone-driven. They came from a rational alpha's love. His warm palm pressed against my back, Oscar kissed away my tears and coaxed me. This time, no pheromones. We'll take it slow. Life is long. I'll slowly tell Oscar, I love his pheromones, but I love him more. I love everything about him.